And once again, welcome to another episode of PWTorch NXT. This one for October 8th, 2024, the second episode of NXT on the CW network. We quite a bit to talk about here tonight, and yet perhaps not enough time. Not enough time because AEW was also on tonight. Dynamite was also on tonight, and Wade needs the stream in about an hour. So we've got an hour to talk about NXT. If we don't hit it in an hour, whatever we have left over, we're gonna jump off of this and jump onto some other platform and record you guys for VIP members. We'll record a VIP after show if we need to, and hit on everything else that we're not able to hit on right now. And when I say we, it ain't me and Kelly this week. It's me and the good doctor, the doctor of WrestleNomics, as it says on the screen here. If you're watching on YouTube, Kevin Cattani. Kevin, thank you for filling in for Kelly tonight.
It's my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I decided I'd have a little fun with the subtitle, so I hope that's all right. But I thought I can't.
Fine by me.
I can't steal off John Cena too much. But I thought, well, let's play with it a little bit. So
I dig it. I dig it. All right. So what I also dug was this second episode of NXT here in on the CW network out of St. Louis, the factory in St. Louis. We had quite a bit to talk. We had quite a bit to talk about. We've got Jevon Evans versus Randy Orton as our main event here. This match. I don't have times for you guys tonight because I did the report and I realized halfway through the show that I wasn't timing matches. So I apologize for that. But we saw Randy Orton go over Jevon Evans here in an outcome that I kind of expected. I didn't think we would wind up seeing Randy Orton lose in NXT to a rookie unless there was some major upset. I gave that a small chance of happening, but for the most part, this match kind of went the way I thought it was going to go. But that is not a knock on the match whatsoever. I thought that they basically, Randy Orton playing the veteran being the veteran, but also playing the veteran in the match here. Kind of his normal slow, methodical pace. Jevon Evans, fighting from underneath and trying to make a name for himself here. Even though Randy Orton won, I think Jevon Evans' stock here went up like tenfold in this performance, as far as I'm concerned. We had a couple spots here that maybe didn't go according to plan, such as the table spot. We saw Randy Orton try to give a backdrop to Jevon Evans through the table, the announce table, and the table didn't break. And then he does it again, and the table doesn't break. And he does it again, and the table doesn't break. So he tries. I don't actually. It was a different move. I think it was like a fall away slam or something along those lines. I forget what it was off the top of my head, but he goes for a fourth time and the table still doesn't break. Jevon Evans every time just kind of and I like the way that Vic put this on commentary. They called Jevon the bouncy boy and he just kind of bounces off of the table every time to the floor. Looked a little painful, not gonna lie. But a lot, a lot of action here in this match. Randy, like I said, he kept to his like methodical type pace, but I think he also was able to work very well with Jevon Evans. And like I said, Jevon was a bump machine for Orton. I think personally, they pulled off a great match to kind of give a little bit of a rub to Jevon Evans, and like I said, elevate his stock a little bit here in NXT. So Kevin, let me throw it to you. How did you feel about the main event, and what'd you like? What you didn't like?
yeah, well, I liked the match as a whole. I think that Jevon is certainly highly athletic. I think he certainly helped to add a lot of movement to what was a typical Randy Orton match. Um, I think what I was, if I had to be disappointed in anything, I was really hoping they were going to use Jevon's athleticism for a super cool RKO spot. And sort of the way it ended with just sort of a run of the mill RKO, I don't know if they were running short on time or I don't know. But I was really sort of hoping for some crazy flippy off the ropes that got caught. I don't know, something. But absent that, I thought Jevon acquitted himself very well in this match, and I think Randy looked like he had a good time with it. I think, he doesn't on Raw and SmackDown. Most of the people work his style because they're just sort of bigger guys. But I thought you really got a sense of how big he was because of how small Jevon is by comparison, and I think they really did well to sort of move around and mix it up. So I thought it was actually quite good. Um, and then perhaps they can do it again, and this time we can find the big flashy RKO.
Yeah, I didn't even really think about that as something that maybe they would have pulled off. The big, like the Seth Rollins at WrestleMania type RKO or something like that. But yeah, maybe now that you say that, I'm a little disappointed myself. But that, again, I don't think it's going to take away from my enjoyment of the match. Um, no, I'd actually like to see them come back to this at some point, maybe years down the line. Javon Evans makes it to the main roster, and if Randy Orton's still wrestling, fingers crossed, because I don't know, Randy's finally grown on me. I called him Blandy Borton for the longest time, and I don't know, over the last maybe 3 or 4 years, he's really grown on me. But it'd be cool to see them, maybe a couple years down the line, come back to this. Javon maybe turn heel and against Randy, and wants to get revenge or something. I don't know, but it'd be cool, something cool for the future. Um, I do like, and actually, you pointed this out, Randy's size. I don't, when you see him with everybody else on the main roster, yeah, you're right. He doesn't, I don't know, he doesn't seem, I mean, he's big. Don't get me wrong, but average, I guess. But again, up against Javon Evans, you really could tell, tell just how big he really is. Um, Really cool comparison, kind of a almost. I don't want to, maybe not quite David versus Goliath, but it's kind of in the ballpark. Um, but how do you feel about how do you feel about kind of all of the main roster stars that have come down lately? Especially over the last couple of weeks, with CM Punk, and have they pulled it off effectively?
Listen, we've talked now for at least 2 years about how NXT has been pulling main roster stars in to either give a certain wrestler a rub or give a show a rub. Um, I don't know that I realized before you told me that AEW was on tonight that it was on tonight, because that certainly explains far more of the cameos than just the Randy Orton. Um, we had Bianca and Jade. I mean, they pulled Stephanie Vaquer out of their back pocket today to get that excitement going. And so I think that, keeping in mind that they knew they were running ahead of AEW, I could see tonight's beefiness even more of a reason to sort of pull eyes that way. But I thought it all worked pretty seamlessly, and I know we'll get to it, but I thought that the Bianca and Jade worked very well in their match. I loved the three of them with the matching gear. Certainly, Randy popped a reaction in his hometown. And it'll just as long, and then of course Jey Uso at the very beginning coming out with Trick.
Yep.
One of the only notes I made from that interaction was it wasn't even dueling. It was supportive. Whoop that Trick yeet. And I tell you what, if they don't make a T-shirt out of that, I'm going to with my cricket and start to make some money off of it.
There we go. There we go. You say cricket. I always thought they were called cry cut until recently, and I don't even know why. It's spelled cricket. Uh, anyway, no, like I said, I like the way that they've been utilizing these guys lately. I'm really curious. I'm not usually a ratings guy, right? I don't know. It's kind of fun to see what the ratings are here and there, but not much of. I don't really care as long as the show's fun. That's really what I care about. But I am curious to see what the ratings are for NXT this week up against AEW. They were up against the VP debate last week. There was some sports ball or something that was going on too, if I recall. So they were up against quite a bit, and they had, I forget what it was, but it was they had a really good rating, and it was well over 1 million viewers, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm kind of curious to see how that changes against AEW. Is AEW more effective than the vice presidential debate? That's what I want to know. That is the question I'm asking. We'll find out. We'll find out. All right, let's move on here. Well, you know what? You brought it up, so let's yeet about it. We'll talk about it. We opened the show tonight with Trick Williams I guess we really opened the show with Randy Orton making his way to the arena, but followed by that was Jevon Evans, and then the man we're about to talk about, Trick Williams. He made his way to the ring to celebrate his win or his win from last week as the new NXT champion. And as he came out, he welcomed St. Louis. He welcomed, I think he welcomed Sexy Red, if I'm not mistaken, who was still out back, hadn't actually made an appearance on the show yet. And then Wes Lee appears in the balcony with the microphone in hand and a spotlight on him, and essentially says something to the effect of, with Zachary Wentz out of the way, his focus is now on the NXT, or becoming a Triple Crown champion in NXT, focused solely on Trick's title. And Wesley told Trick that you ain't it, and Jay's music wound up. Jay Uso's music hit, which was a big shock to me, a pretty big shock to the rest of the to the in arena crowd. And we saw Trick and Jay kind of hug, embrace one another. Jay grabbed a mic, hyped the crowd up a little bit. Trick was like, Trick said he appreciated him coming out. We got that dueling whoop that Trick yeet chant, although, like you said, kind of complimentary to one another. And then the segment kind of like just ended. It was a little odd. I'm not gonna lie. I thought maybe Jay was going to do something a bit more here on the show, but it was really just him coming out going, "Yo, what's up, guys? I'm here. Hi," and that was it. I mean, I guess it's effective in getting a pop and some excitement in the arena before the show starts proper, but I don't know. That was kind of it. What I did like was it kind of led into the next segment, the first actual match of the night, Fatal Influence versus Jade, Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Kelani Jordan. And basically those three, Cargill, Jordan, and Belair, made their way to the ring right before Fatal Attraction. There was a commercial break in between. Fatal Influence. Did I say Fatal Attraction? Fatal Influence? I don't know. I always think Fatal Attraction, but you guys know what I'm talking about. Fatal Influence. But what I really liked is we saw, like I said, Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Jordan standing tall in the ring with Trick Williams and Jey Uso, 5 champions standing in the ring, 5 champions of color standing in the ring, which I thought was really, really cool. With WWE's history of champions of color, I guess, and kind of a lack thereof. I thought it was really cool to see that. See in 2024, we're finally there. We've got 5 champions standing in the ring, and none of them share the same skin color as me, which I enjoy. I like that. We'll talk about the match actually, if you want to talk about the match, feel free to lump that in. But how'd you feel about the way they used Jey Uso, the opening here? And like I said, if you want to jump into the match, feel free.
Sure. So I listen. The crowd loves Jay, and the crowd loves Trick, and when you put that together, they go together like peanut butter and cupcake, right? So I thought it was a great way to open. I agree that it seems like either they took too much time, or there was it seemed to have an abrupt sort of ending. And then I was going to say before you mentioned it, and I think you're spot on, but I thought they looked really awkward, like they forgot to get out of the ring when Jade and Bianca and Kelani came in. Like they were like, oh wait, our segment's over, but we're still here. All right, well we'll stand here and look approvingly at the women. But now that you made that point, and I think I'm on board with that. I wonder if that was Shawn Michaels' response to the question Triple H got at the end of the Bad Blood press conference regarding there not being any people of color on the Bad Blood card in wrestling positions. And so I wonder if it
wasn't
was
even thinking about that. That's a good call.
well, and I whether it was or it wasn't, I'm sure that people on both sides of the argument could say that that may have been partially in response to that. And so I think if that's the case, then there's a very overt picture and screen grab of five people wearing belts that are all of color. And so I think, you know, it's tough, right? Because I hope that they did it because they wanted to do it,
Hmm.
and they recognize these folks as very talented. Um, but but it's also hard to imagine it not being, a partial response to say, okay, well, yeah, but look, here they are, and like they're on TV all at the same time.
Yeah.
So I hope that there was some altruism behind it, but um, I think it's important that if they're going to continue to represent themselves as a company for everybody, I was a little disappointed in Triple H's. Well, I don't see color; I only see talent, because I don't think that's not that's not the anti-racist answer. And I'm not saying he was being racist, but like that wasn't the way to answer that question.
Hmm.
Um, and I think we should be celebrating the differences, because there's somebody sitting at home saying, well, maybe one day I can do this because here's an Asian or Pacific Islander, here is a black person, here is an Indian person, here is a
Hmm.
whoever, and let's be upfront and celebrate that. And so if tonight was opening that door to say we are going to be more intentional about making sure that all of our champions are getting TV time, then let's rock and roll. Um, but we can't pretend that an issue doesn't exist in 2024 when it's very clear that it does.
No, you're absolutely right. And to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about the Bad Blood press conference when I said that. If it doesn't happen today, it's probably out of my mind, especially with the week I've had so far. But I'm not going to get into that. That's work, and I ain't talking about that now. Um, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. If it's a genuine genuine thing, like sure. But if it's really just kind of a play in response to the Bad Blood press conference, then yeah, okay, I'm not quite as behind it as I was about 3 minutes ago. Um, so there is that. I what does give me some hope, and not that I want to get into racial topics and things like that, especially as a white male. I feel like I don't have a lot that I should contribute, I guess, sometimes, although I know I'm anyway. I don't want to bite myself in the ass, I guess, here. But what do want to say is one thing that does give me hope is Triple H, or sorry, Booker T rather, came out and said, after all of that he's never seen racism from Triple H, and there was a lot of talk. There has been a lot of talk about that angle from WrestleMania years and years ago, where Booker T probably should have won, but he didn't, and there were all those kind of racial undertones, and everybody's and like people like you don't get to win or be a champion or something like that. I forget what it was, and they were like, well, we met people from WCW, not the other thing. So coming from Booker T, I I don't know. I'm hoping that's the case, and that WWE is under new management, and it's turning over a new leaf. And we don't see not only a lot of the racial things, but we don't see a lot of the sexism and all the other stuff under Vince. But we'll leave that for a different podcast. All right. With that said, let's get into the first match of the night: Fatal Influence versus Jade Cargill, Bianca Belair, and Kelani Jordan. We wound up seeing Jordan, Belair, Cargill go over Fatal Influence. This I the I enjoyed this match. I'm not always a fan of six of multi-person tag matches like this. It just gets kind of frenetic sometimes and hard to pay attention, or not hard to pay attention, hard to follow, because there's just so much going on. And in some cases there were. But what I really liked about this match was I thought that it really showcased the workhorse that Kelani Jordan can be. Not only is she holding the North American title, which if you want to maybe compare it to like the Intercontinental title, which is the workhorse title, you can kind of say that about the North American title, I think. Um, and I think she lived up to that tonight. I think she got the most ring time out of anybody else in the match, in out of this match. Um, and I think she performed really well here, especially as new as she is to the business. I feel like she's, even though I thought her debut was spectacular for somebody again so new to the business. Almost a year ago, maybe over a year ago at this point. I feel like she's come such a long way, to where she is now. Um, what did you think about the match and Kalani Jordan?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it was huge that she got the most ring time, and it was huge that she's the one that got the pin at the end, because she's the one that's going to be on TV on Tuesday nights the most. But I thought, to see her stand there and hold her own with Jade and Bianca was a really good sign. I loved a lot of that triple body slam at the very beginning of the match, and the way they comboed their two finishers at the end really put a nice bookend on what they're able to do, and kind of when you have the right ingredients, how good the dish can be. And I think, it was really fun to watch them. I love that they had the coordinating gear. And I think that just sort of made the presentation look really good, and not like, oh, hey, your big sisters are coming down to help, just hang tight. It was like, no, 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 we're three women who are doing our thing, and then here we're going to do it against three dastardly heels. And so I thought it was a very good match, and I thought Fatal Influence played their part really well. I think, I keep my fingers crossed for JC Jane, because I think when Mandy Rose was shown the door, um, you know, she and Gigi Dolan lost a lot of the steam that they had as the group. And I think they both have kind of struggled to find their footing, and Gigi is still off TV. Um, Again, I think she's recovering from an injury.
She
And
is, yeah.
so I think it's good that they have her in another group. And I think that she's talented, and so it's just a matter of, how do I separate myself enough from the old group, but still have to hold on to the character elements that made me part of the original group? And I think she's still sort of on that journey. But I thought the three of those women were great foils to Bianca, Jade, and Kalani. And I look forward to maybe having them run it back, maybe at a PLE or at Halloween Havoc or something, because I think there's some meat left on that bone if they want to go back to that.
We are going to see Belair and Cargill. I don't know if it's going to be this week on SmackDown, but we saw a segment later on in the night where Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson walked up to the three women, Jordan, Belair, and Cargill, and they challenged Belair and Cargill to a match for the tag team titles. And Belair and Cargill invited them to SmackDown for that match. I'm not sure. I don't think they announced it for this week or anything like that. They may have, and I missed it. But we're probably going to see that match on SmackDown before long. So um, I'm going to assume that we're going to see Belair and Cargill go over there, but how do you? I've just got confirmation from Jobin, who sometimes joins me here on the show, that they believe that that it did get confirmed. So, so there we go there. But how did you feel about that segment, and what do you think the outcome of that match is going to be?
Well, I will say I agree with Job, and I think Bianca sort of did the, okay, fine, well, we'll see you this week on SmackDown, but like the segment was ending and there was yelling and they just sort of faded out. So like if you weren't really paying attention, you could have missed it. I think at this point I'll keep an eye out for a Nick Aldis "It's official" tweet to come out in the next little bit here. Um, but I think if they do in fact wrestle and it goes to a finish, I very much expect Jade and Bianca to win that. Um, but I think less for Jakara and more for Lash. This is going to be a chance for both of them to get some mainstream exposure. Um, I'm sure that, and unfortunately for them, I can very much see an instance where the crowd reaction for Lash and Jakar is not going to be great because a lot of people don't know who they are. Um, but I think it's going to be another chance for the two of those women, and I think Lash specifically, to show that they've been growing and learning and can now do it in front of tens of thousands of fans and not just 5,000 or 4,000 fans. Um, because I really do think, we could be in a position where Jakara could, or not Jakara, excuse me, Lash could be maybe a foil to Raquel Rodriguez, in terms of kind of having a Goliath
Yeah.
versus Goliath match. But they're not going to put her there if she's not ready. So I'll be very interested to see. I'm not going to pay too much attention to the crowd reactions because I don't think a lot of the crowd are going to know who they are. But I
I
am going to
agree.
pay very close attention to the level of wrestleship that goes on because I think that's what Triple H and Shawn are looking for, is to say they're getting more ready than they were, and now let's see them do it against the tag champs.
Is wrestleship a word? And if it's not, it should be.
Well, if not, the doctor of WrestleNomics just made it one, darn it.
There we go. I like it. I dig it. No, I agree with you on the crowd reaction on SmackDown for that match. I have a feeling it's most likely going to be a a lukewarm reaction, and probably not the reaction they necessarily want, but it's not going to be one where you're going to be able to pay attention to the crowd to really gauge the match. You're going to need to really, um, watch the match. I think it should be good. They probably won't be given a whole heck of a lot of time. If I had, well, SmackDown's 3 hours now, so maybe because is it this week they're starting the 3 hour format? I can't remember. But so maybe they will get a little bit more time. Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, all right, let's move on here because we are running out of time.
I
Um,
was going to say, if you want me to be your time check person, we're at 27 minutes here, so let's
let's keep on
keep our
trucking.
efficiency up at a high level here.
There we go. There we go. And for anybody that's just joining us, that's because Wade needs the stream to be able to talk about AEW, which will be ending shortly. Let's go to Femi versus Tony D'Angelo for the North American Championship. This one, whoops. I just realized in my live report, which I filled in for Kelly on the live report, I wrote down that Femi was the winner. I'm going to change that right now because Femi was not the winner to this match. That was Tony D'Angelo as the new North American champion.
Oh, you revisionist in your history writing, you.
I apparently so, right? I maybe it was just because there was a big piece of me that wanted Femi to win, uh, but but yeah. So we saw Tony D'Angelo go over here. This I thought was a good match, and man, I think it was the first time that I the sympathy that I felt for D'Angelo was real here. They with this whole angle of them or of Tony D'Angelo kind of being afraid of Obafemi. I thought kind of humanized him a little bit. It made him seem a little bit more than just that stereotypical Don character. Sorry, I'm fixing my live report because that's going to drive me nuts if I don't. We made him more than just that stereotypical Don character, and like I say, you just kind of humanized him, made him feel a little bit more relatable. And then here tonight, we saw him, fight from underneath quite a bit, trying to, take Oba down over and over again, get some offense in a little bit, but he really didn't fire up until one point in the match. Adriana Rizzo got knocked down, and at that point, he just fired right up. Was like, "Oh my God, you're not going to hurt my family. It's just a family here." And that's when we saw him kind of, like I said, really fire up and lead into the win. Um, I I mean, Tony D'Angelo is not my favorite in NXT by a long shot, but I enjoy the gimmick. I like him. I like his wrestling, especially lately. I feel he's gotten a lot better. He felt so bland for quite a while. I don't know if that was just skill or that was just the style that he was trying to wrestle for that particular character, and he's kind of adjusted that over time. But whatever it is, I like it. And I think he's been a lot more effective as of late with kind of his newer move set a little bit. Um, I this match kind of went down exactly how I expected for a couple reasons. One being the angle with Tony D'Angelo, and him being afraid and everything I just kind of talked about, but also too, Obafemi, they want to keep him strong, right? He just, and I talked about this last week. I called this last week. He just obviously became the longest reigning NXT North American champion of all time. Now he's got that accolade, and he can brag about that and talk about that. He doesn't need the title anymore. So it was time to take it off of him. And with the story they were telling with Tony D'Angelo, where would that story have gone if he'd lost? It would have probably just knocked him down a peg. And when I say knocking down a peg, I don't mean on the card, but I'm talking the mental state of Tony D'Angelo, knock him down a little bit, and then have to build himself back up. And I don't know if that story would be quite as intriguing as the one they were telling with Obafemi. So I like the way this went down. As I said many times, Obafemi could hold that title as long as he wanted, as far as I was concerned. But I'm okay with the way they took it off of him. I think they gave us a great story, and the title is now on somebody who, I think at this point is deserving of the title. Like I said, he's not necessarily my favorite in NXT, but I think it's deserving. Kevin, throwing to you.
Well, I will slightly disagree. Uh, I think in that ring, you had two people where Obafemi, like Obafemi doesn't need the belt. Like, we understand who his character is, we understand his style of wrestling, we understand his mission statement, and I think poor Tony D'Angelo is so tied to the gimmick that without a belt or without a feud that leads to a belt, who is he and what does he do, right? In my own personal fantasy booking, I was kind of hoping. Well, I didn't see Obafemi losing here, so if I'm not reading the tea leaves right, then I'm the idiot. But had Obafemi retained, my fantasy booking. Oh, hi Brian, I see you there, and hi Brock. Earlier we didn't mention your thing, but hello to both of you. Um,
Yeah, Brock said he missed the big spot back when we were talking about Jevon Evans, and I didn't see it until maybe about 10 minutes later. So I apologize, Brock.
and listen, Brock still gets the award for best avatar here with the '80s monster toy there. Um, I my fantasy booking was that Tony D'Angelo would bring the Brooklyn Brawler in as his new
Ooh,
mentor and bring back the full-blooded Italians and maybe Santino Marella and create an Italian mob supergroup whose
I love
sole
it.
job is to launder money and wreak havoc on those who dare question the family. And then if we're looking for our Hollywood mashup, because you said this, not me, but maybe we could bring Vin Diesel in to then talk about just how important family is. Because if you remember, there was a whole series of memes that were everything that always came back to Vin Diesel saying, but nothing's more important than family. Uh, so that was my fantasy booking 101 for how that could have happened if he lost, as he then decided to assemble the Italian Avengers and make the big comeback.
I'm like really okay with that. I'm absolutely okay with that. Like I mean, even with the last name Lindberg, I am mostly Italian, half Italian. So I latch on to the gimmick anyway, because Tony D'Angelo kind of sounds like a lot of my family members, at least on my mom's side anyway. Um, But yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. But yeah, we'll go. All right, let's. I was gonna say something, and it completely escaped my brain as I was talking. So I'm gonna just pretend like that didn't happen and move on. Um, okay, I lost my spot in my notes also, so that's a good time for good timing. There we go. Let's move on to the next match here. Oh, I agree with Brian. We also need a 2024 Big Vito coming in with the crossdress. So there's that. There's that.
And wasn't at least one of Bobby Lashley's mothers or sisters or whatever some sort of Italian themed gimmick too? Like we could bring her back too if we need to.
Yeah, there we go. Just all of them, all of them. I'm trying to. Johnny Stromboli. That was a name I don't think I was going to bring up tonight.
And that was
Or
also not
ever
on my
again.
bingo card, so there you go.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. All right, let's keep on moving down the list here. We saw Lola Vice tell Ava that she wanted a match against Jada Parker when Nikita Lyons walked in. So apparently Nikita Lyons is back, which is fantastic. You can see the excitement in my eyes and in my voice, and hear it in my voice, I'm sure. And a match was made for them next week. Then we get into Nathan Frazer and Axiom versus A-Town Down Under for the NXT Tag Team Championships. We did wind up seeing Nathan Frazer and Axiom go over. We saw a little bit of discourse between the two of them during this match. Nathan Frazer at one point went to go. He was on the offense and had, I don't know, it was either Theory or Waller knocked down. I forget. When Axiom called for the tag, and Frazier's just like, no, man, I got it. But he went for a standing. I think he went for a standing. Oh my God, shooting star press. Wow, standing shooting. I'm starting to get tired, so things are
So
starting to
wait a
leave my
minute.
brain.
You remember Johnny Stromboli, but you don't remember standing shooting star press.
Yes. Welcome to an ADHD brain. But you went for a shooting star press. I think it was Theory got his knees up, but whoever it was, either Waller or Theory, I don't remember, got the knees up. And then when he went to go tag Axiom in, Axiom kind of just went, nope, and jumped off the rope or jumped off the apron. Eventually did make the tags. It wasn't like he left his partner completely high and dry, but there was, just that little bit of like friendly rivalry that we maybe not quite so friendly. We also saw them arguing a little bit earlier in the night about who was the fastest wrestler fastest wrestler in NXT when they were backstage. In the locker room with Randy Orton. Randy Orton asked if Jevon Evans was as fast as everybody says he is, and which of course Randy Orton wouldn't have like studied some tape of Jevon Evans. Come on. But whatever. He asked if they're the fastest. He was the fastest, and Axiom was like, "Yeah, he's the fastest." And Frazer just kind of immediately took offense to that. So we saw a little bit of that earlier in the night too. Like I said, in the match here, when we saw it in the match, I almost expected Axiom and Frazer to lose. I really didn't think. I really didn't wind up thinking that they would have turned it around, I guess, and retained the titles. But that is what happened. We're seeing, and I wrote this in the report, where the cracks have been forming in this tag team for a little while now. And I'm kind of expecting that those cracks to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until they lose the titles, or just maybe in the match where they are about to lose their titles, and it kind of implodes, and then we see this inevitable feud kind of reemerge between the two, because remember, this tag team started as a feud, and kind of go from there, which I'm kind of looking forward to, because they have some great matches and they have some great chemistry together, but at the same time, like, I haven't personally haven't really thought that Axiom and Nathan Frazier's been the best thing on NXT TV. I haven't really liked their title run. They've done some stuff that's a little heelish and a little out of character. So I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of time to move on. And in a way, I kind of just want to move on from them for a little bit. Not that I want them to lose their jobs or anything like that, but just maybe to keep them off TV for a little bit and give somebody else some TV time. Maybe they go up to the main roster or something. I don't know. But those are just my personal feelings on it here. What are your personal feelings on it here?
Well, I personally think that the story that we're all missing here, Nate, is the battle between ATL Down Under and Axiom and Nathan Frazer to see which tag team breaks up first. Because also in this
Yeah,
match was some friendly fire on the part of the heels. And so maybe they keep pairing these two groups together to see who can play the better mind game against the other and still survive the inadvertent contact that's happening to each other, and who's going to break up first. So I think that's what we need to be looking at is who called safe flight second, and who got their windshield repaired first.
safe light
Because
repair,
that's
safe light replace.
there it is. So that's going to be the thing to watch. And also, and I see you highlighting it, but um, Brian is also pointing out that several of our beloved tandems are also having discord between the two of them, and so they need to be the organization needs to be very careful about breaking up too many too quickly,
Yeah.
because then all the work that you're doing to rebuild tag divisions will be very quickly undone. And the last thing I think that either level of WWE needs right now is a more muddy mid card. I don't think there's a whole lot of room in the mid card right now to stand out, but I think if you are a good and effective tag team, that could very well be your ticket to more screen time. And so it might be a very unwise decision to break them up, even if that's sort of the inclination.
Yeah. No, actually, that's a good point. I was, I wasn't thinking about Waller and Grayson either at this point, but now that you mention it, I believe it. I want to say it was Vic, but it might have been Booker. I don't remember. But on commentary, I think it was Booker talking about why isn't it the Grayson Wall or um, the the uh, the Waller theory effect or something like that. Kind of harkening back to last week. So yeah, they were definitely playing that that kind of duality throughout the course of the match. Um, but yeah, we have seen quite a few teams kind of in this spot. The one that Brian Alston brings up in the chat is the New Day. And I hate to say it, but I really don't want to see Woods and Kofi break up. I was really hoping because we don't see many teams just last. You got like the Road Warriors, and things like that. Kind of went till the end. Obviously, Animal had a little bit of a solo run at the end after Hawk passed away, but so yeah, I guess together until the end, really. But yeah, I wanted to see the New Day be one of those teams, and I'm thinking there could still be the chance where Big E comes back in because they've even said like, we don't have Big E. Maybe Big E comes back and like talks to the two of them and fixes things. And when I say comes back, maybe not not necessarily in a wrestling capacity, but just shows up and be like, yo guys, what's going on? Why are you fighting? And Woods is like, yeah, you're right, or something. I don't know. We'll see. But that's at least my hope, my fantasy book here. All right, and I think okay, so we had the four matches on the show. We may be able to get this done within the next 5 to 10 minutes here. So we had another segment. Where to go? I was just going to talk about Ridge Holland. We saw Ridge Holland kind of talking to the camera in a pre-tape, some sort of a vignette, where he was basically explaining why he attacked Chase U, how he felt like he had a purpose in Chase University, but then that was all kind of thrown away by, as he put it, mediocrity when they lost because he became a champion with Chase University, but then they lost the titles. So that was why he wound up attacking them. He was finally a champion, and mediocrity when they should have been the best because they're Chase University. So he wound up kind of destroying everybody over it. Right directly after that vignette, we saw him being interviewed backstage with Sarah Schreiber, and he cut probably the best promo I think I've seen him cut to date. He was kind of getting so jazzed up, he was turning red. So it was like a believable, angry style promo. He ended up getting attacked from the back by Miles Bourne, obviously of Chase University, looking to get some retribution, and they were pulled apart. After that, another segment we saw was Sexy Red do her live performance in the ring. There were a few fans that seemed to be enjoying it, but Booker T seemed to be the one enjoying it the most, doing some sort of, I don't know if it's a Fortnite dance or what. I'm 36. I don't know what's hip and popular anymore. Yeah, we saw that. Ethan Page's music hit. He interrupted Sexy Red, told her a concert was canceled, and that's what she gets for interrupting him on Raw. He talked about all the other segments, kind of all the other things that he's got his hands in on the show, and told us that he's not leaving the ring till he got his rematch. And then Jevon Evans' music hit. The two of them get in a bit of a scuffle. Jevon throws Ethan Page out of the ring, and basically waited for Randy Orton to come out for their match to start. I think that touches on all the segments that we haven't already talked about.
Not so fast, my friend. Did we? Well, firstly, thank you to Brian for making my pitch to listen to 8 Years Back, since I'm on the show and not writing an email. So thank you for picking up the ball where I usually will supply it. But also, let us not forget about Julia and Stephanie facing off against Cora and Roxanne.
Yes, I did forget about that.
And then, if I may, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, but because we haven't seen him in a couple weeks, and I don't want his thunder to die out, I still believe in Joe Hendry.
I believe in Joe Hendry. Yes. Okay. So Roxanne, let's. I don't know if there's much to talk about on those other two segments. If you have anything, let me know. If not, we'll go.
I agree with you about Ridge's promo tonight, but I'm still so out on him.
Yeah.
You know, I just okay. Like he's a good big guy that can throw people around, but like I don't know that this is really helping him either. And I had recently applied for a faculty position at Chase U, but with all the goings on, I don't know. I think I might rescind that application. I don't know.
You know, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. There seems to be a lot of hostility in that university right now. All right. So yeah, let's talk about. I don't believe I skipped over it a little earlier because we'll talk about segments later, and then I forgot to come back to it. We saw Julia being interviewed backstage after a bit of a recap segment from the match last week. Julia got interrupted by an old friend, and who was not shown on screen at this point. They cut to commercial break after that. When we got back from the break, Roxanne Perez made her way to the ring. She basically mocked the crowd for mocked the crowd for believing that Julia was going to win last week. And she basically kind of went on to say, maybe now after she's beaten all these people and she's still the champion, maybe people start to believe her and the things that she says. And she made reference to an old rival becoming a friend once again, something along those lines. Not in those words exactly, but basically something like that. Cora Jade's music hit. She winds up making her way to the ring and joins her former friend turned rival turned friend again in the ring. Basically said that for 9 months she was sitting on the sidelines at home while everybody else is talking about how awesome the women's division is in NXT, and they forgot about her. So now she's come back to essentially like show everybody what Cora Jade's all about. And Roxanne Perez basically said, I know this title was what tore us apart, but now it's what's going to bring us back together. Julia's music hit at this point, and she makes her way down to the ring. And then it's revealed who her old friend was, that old friend who made her on-screen debut last week, but now she actually makes her in-person coming out to the ring and actually standing in the ring debut this week, Stephanie Vaquer. The two of them ran to the ring, and brawl breaks out between the two of them, Cora Jade and Roxanne Perez, as things do in wrestling, break out into a brawl. at the end of it, it was Julia and Stephanie standing tall in the ring. The women's championship was kind of just on in the center of the ring. Roxanne didn't grab it when she was thrown out, I guess. So the two of them being Julia and Stephanie, um, reach down and they both pick the title up at the same time and kind of give an eye. They both kind of stare down Roxanne Perez. I think this is kind of a signal they're both coming for the title. Although Stephanie, I guess, did say she was coming for whoever won the match last week. So there's that. So let me throw to you on on that segment.
Listen, that's a whole lot of star power in one ring, let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
And I think the thing that I think as I was watching it happen, I was not super behind, but as we've reflected on it a bit, I think I'm interested to see where it goes. To say I'm wanting to let breathe and see how heel Roxy and Cora do where face Roxy and Cora did not. So I wonder if because I do think, and I know we've mentioned this before in the last bit, um, that Roxy has really sort of come into her heel persona because it's not so much the grit teeth, I'm mean and ruthless, but more just the petulant, smarmy, you know, attitude that you would expect from a 21-year-old who is a champion and can't be told anything from anybody. Um, I want to see a little bit more now that Cora is back. How is she ready to live into this heel character? Because I do think there's a potential authenticity flag with her. Um, as in, like, I'm not necessarily buying it, but I do want to see how the heel versions of these characters work
Yeah.
with each other because it has been a while since Cora's been on TV, and I imagine there are a crop of fans who are watching that maybe don't remember her or are like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that lady from back in the day, and so she has a little bit of work to reacquaint herself to the audience, and I imagine we'll be seeing her on TV every week for the next few weeks as people get more familiar with her again. Uh, but boy, I tell you what, if anybody looks more like a star than Julia and Stephanie Vaquer, I don't know, man. They just held that ring, and I think the NXT women's division and just WWE's women's division in general has so much going for it right now,
Oh yeah.
um, and I just cannot wait to watch all of that, explode in a volcano of wrestling goodness. So
Yes, yes, no, I agree with you there. This is something I talked about a few months ago at this point was when Cora Jade returned. Potentially seeing the two of them, her and Roxanne Perez, kind of, rekindle their friendship and get back together. And I'm glad to see that's the way they went, simply for the reasons that you pointed out. That their face run, both of them, where it was okay, but Roxanne's heel turn has been fantastic. Um, and Cora Jade, I think she was really finding her stride as a heel before she got injured. So now she's come back. She's got a bit of a different look. That's about as far as I'm going to say about that. She's got a bit of a different look and a little bit of a different attitude. And maybe this pairing now will take off where the face pairing didn't. So with that said, I think we managed to do it. I think we managed to hit everything before Wade needed to come back and use this to talk about AEW Dynamite here tonight. So stick around on the feed to talk about AEW with Wade Keller and I believe Zach Haydorn in a little bit. But that was PWT Talks NXT for tonight. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things I do out at natelindberg.com. Kevin, who are you?
well, I am Kevin P. Cattani. You can find me on the X. Oh wow, I still call it Twitter. At
Yeah.
KP Cattani. Come on, and we'll talk wrestling or fantasy gaming or emotional intelligence or whatever. And actually, as a final thought, I am very interested to see how next week goes, where it is from the CW back at the Performance Center, because I
Yes.
think these two episodes were really strong kickoffs, and both arenas looked really good. Um, and actually, what I'm hoping is that maybe the infusion of the CW brand and maybe some CW money might allow them to they don't need to be on the road every week like Raw and SmackDown, but like maybe once a month they can go to an arena somewhere
I
and
think that's the plan. I think that's
try
the
to
plan.
get the 5-figure attendance versus the 4-figure attendance. And I think it's a good sign because I think um, certainly they'll know ahead of time when these dates are so they can get some of the main roster folks to be there. And I think, heck, if you just sort of do a hometown tour where you pick a hometown of one of your hot
Yeah.
main roster people and let them be the special guest in one reason or another, you could make a good sort of once a month special attraction out of it. So I am very interested to see how next week goes. I'm sure my email will reflect as such. But thank you again, Nate, for having me on. It is always a
Always.
pleasure, and I am always ready in the bullpen. So you just let the lefty know when he's needed, and he'll be there. Kind of like
Sounds
our
good to me.
friend Joe Hendry.
Joe Hendry. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.